The life of Tokugawa Ieyasu. In 1543, Tokugawa Ieyasu was born. His original name was Matsudaira Tokechiyo, which was the name his parents gave him. Ieyasu was born into the family of a local warrior situated several miles east of modern Nagoya. Their family was struggling to survive a brutal age of much contention. His father was constantly switching around in alliances to benefit their situation, but during one of these alliance shifts, his mother was permanently separated from their family. Because of the military adversity, his father sent him away as a hostage to the Imagawa family, who were powerful neighbors. He was taken from the Imagawa during a raid by the Sumpo, and he was positioned at their headquarters. He was held for 2 years before he was released back to the Imagawa. At Sumpu, the situation had settled, and he was trained in the military and governmental arts, and developed a love for falconry. He planned to become a military general, and from this, he would become a clan leader and keep absolute power. In general, he had done a good job finding a way to assume some kind of power that would lead him to more absolute power, so I would give him in his early life a grade of 90%. Acquired military experience through leading troops and forces on behalf of the clan leader Imagawa Yoshimoto. This allowed him to start building a name for himself. He was second in command of the Tokugawa clan after long years of education and military practice. During the Battle of Oda Nobunaga, Imagawa Yoshimoto died, which led to Ieyasu assuming leadership in the Imagawa house. Once he had leadership of the Imagawa house, he aligned himself with the Oda Nobunaga clan in 1567. He began to rise in absolute power. While he was allied with the Oda Nobunaga, he took the time to destroy rebellious Buddhist sectarian groups within the Matsudaira. He also built his small army at the time and taxed people while enforcing law. In the 1560s, Ieyasu expanded east. In the 1570s, this expansion led him to move his headquarters to Hamamatsu. During this time, he was heavily dependent on his alliance with the Oda Nobunaga to help him expand, and by the early 1580s, he had become an important daimyo. In 1582, Nobunaga was wounded by a rebellious subordinate and ended his own life. After his death, Ieyasu inherited half of Oda Nobunaga's clan, along with Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who was an amazing commander, and they agreed after much fighting not to bother each other. At this time, I would give Ieyasu a 95% on rising to absolute power by aligning himself with a powerful neighbor and using this alliance to help himself expand and grow his own name, which led to him inheriting half of the land that was Oda Nobunaga's. His first steps as one of the head leaders of the Nobunaga was to expand his control over the daimyo of southwestern Japan. He found that in order to keep absolute power, he needed to expand his territory and continue to grow a strong military. For more security, he moved his headquarters to Sumpu, which was the place he had been held hostage at a younger age. In 1589, Tokugawa Ieyasu set his sights on the Hojo clan, who held a large district east of the Hokone mountain barrier. When the Hojo clan refused submission, Tokugawa Ieyasu gathered a grand army and naval force to destroy the Hojo clan. His navy consisted of many ships that were loaded with cannons and had many troops on board ready for hand-to-hand combat. His army also consisted of many soldiers which were known as samurai that used various weapons like bows and arrows, spears, and swords. Although skilled with all of these weapons, their symbolized weapon was the sword called the katana. The samurai also wore armor known as goseku to help protect themselves during battles. Tokugawa Ieyasu sent the ships to blockade the seaside exit the city had and used his samurai ground troops to block off the rest of their territory. Using this powerful force, Tokugawa Ieyasu was able to trap the Hojo clan, eventually led to the Hojo clan's surrender. This entire strategy proved Ieyasu's superior military tactics, and with the Hojo clan out of the way, Tokugawa Ieyasu was officially the undisputed master of Japan, who was able to expand to the new land they had received. In this new land, he was especially interested in the area near the fishing village Edo, and sent many vessels and troops there. This area is where he decided to start the construction of his grand castle, which was known as the Castle of Edo. This castle was where they set up their headquarters, and even after its destruction, the area it was built on is now called Tokyo, which is the capital of Japan. This castle served as his headquarters and allowed him to centralize the government and showed his absolute power towards his people. After every expansion, his subject number would rise, so there were many people in Tokugawa Ieyasu's territory. Because of this growth, he began to focus his efforts on his empire. He created a large town near the castle of Edo, and points of these towns were under direct administration by appointed officials. This made it easier for him to put a tax on the people, which was collected by the appointed officials. He also confiscated all the weapons of the villagers, which reduced the likelihood of a rebellion, allowing him to keep absolute power. He also moved many skilled artists and businessmen to his new castle town to help create a greater economy in the area and create new arts for him. He had also undertaken engineering projects that included enlarging his castle and assuming a water supply for the people. These changes were taken well by the people and allowed them to live peacefully together. While this time of peace lasted for some time, Tokugawa Ieyasu still had more ambitions that he wanted to complete. His greatest competitor, Hideyoshi, had suddenly died and led him to taking over all that he had. Knowing that he had grown a strong base and was the headmaster of Japan, he wanted to keep absolute power for as long as possible and worked to do just that. He continued to take much more land for himself and put his allies in such strategic positions near the surviving enemies. He also put his most faithful vassals under direct control of much of central Japan. Now that he had taken over the heart of Japan, he established supervisory organs to constrain daimyo, imperial court nobles, and clerics. This was all done very well. In 1600, he decided to fight another glorious battle against the Sekigahara. There were rumors boiling around that the clan was starting to rebel against Tokugawa Ieyasu, who were not loyal to him. This defiance angered Tokugawa Ieyasu, and he quickly gathered an army of 89,000 soldiers and marched to destroy the Sekigahara. The Sekigahara were also smart and had just under 82,000 men combined with alliances. They planned to hide in the mountains surrounding a valley, and when Tokugawa Ieyasu's army entered and set up camp for the night, they would attack and hopefully destroy Ieyasu's army. This would have been problematic for Tokugawa Ieyasu if he hadn't gotten inside information from one of the Sekigahara allies, Hideaki. With this inside information, he knew what they planned. Instead of being surprised about the attack, they were prepared and ready for it. They fought for a long time, with many great strategic plays, but when Hideaki hasn't moved his army when told, Otanyo Yoshitosuga, the Sekigahara clan leader, grew worried, and instead Ieyasu sent Hideaki's army to flank the Sekigahara clan, and with the added numbers, they demolished the rest of the Sekigahara army. With this defeat of the Sekigahara, Tokugawa Ieyasu had the remainder of Japan and was titled shogun by the imperial court in 1603. This was their way of acknowledging Tokugawa Ieyasu and was officially authorized to keep the peace. Although he had just recently been titled shogun, in 1605 he gave up the title to one of his sons in order to keep absolute power running through the family, and left for Sumpu, which was more pleasant to him than Edo. Even after he retired, he still expanded foreign affairs to welcome trade even more. During this time, he did try to stop missionary work, activity, and the entire practice of Christianity religion. He had also started growing wary of the daimyo from 1604 to 1614. Had Hideata keep them at work on the palace of Edo to stop any sort of defiance before it had even begun. For his military and political standpoint, I would give Tokugawa Ieyasu an 100% on keeping absolute power because he was able to create a strong military that destroyed any competition they had. He made the most strategic moves exactly when he needed to gain all of control and stop anyone else dead in their tracks that tried to oppose him. He may have lacked the stand of religion, with poor tactics to keep power over the people, so in the religion category, I would give him a 75%. Finally, on the topic of trade and economy, he did a very good job keeping a high economy throughout his time as an absolute monarch and started to expand trade with many countries. I would give him a 90% for these reasons. He finally died in the year 1616, but his legacy had brought lasting peace for centuries. He is known as one of the main unifiers of Japan. When I add up all of the grades, I give Tokugawa Ieyasu, on his role of keeping absolute power, a total of 90%. This is a very high score for his ability to keep absolute power, and it shows how impactful he was for Japan.